down. You know? We definitely don't profit off of these bigger events, though, that's for sure. But enough of all of that. As we have in the top left-hand side, our Blue Terran player from Onside Gaming. Been waiting in the semi-finals after a fantastic group stage performance. It is Maru, our Blue Terran. Taking on in the bottom right corner of the map, the red Protoss player. What a run he's been on. It is classic. Best of 5 semi-final here. Thank you so much, Fastman86, for the 6-month resub on the Prime. That's our racks and our gate. All coming up. We get set here early. And we wonder what the hell is going to happen. Classic's been on a streak. His run today. 3-1 versus Creator. 3-1 versus Scarlet. 3-2 versus Björn. Will it all end here against Maru, who we expect to be the ultimate champion, the player to beat? Well, maybe. Again, Hero sits in the grand final, waiting for the winner of this series in a best of 7. Exciting stuff. First season of the WardiTV Korean Royale. You guys have any feedback for the Korean Royale? Very happy to hear it in the chat at some point, or feel free to message me if you thought the format sucked and we should change it for season 2, or pretty much whatever you feel like, honestly. Even if you just liked it, let me know, because it will allow us to carve season 2 into something that will be, more enjoyable for everybody, is the hope. So yeah, that's obviously the plan. As our Reaper heads down the map, what do we think, guys? Maru just going to be systematic, deadly? He's the kind of player who sometimes just sort of ruins the party, right? It's like we have really fun games, really close games, and then Maru's like, okay, enough of that. Let's just go, let's just go, and just, wrap up these games. Now I've got to go to bed tonight, man. Well, let's see. I mean, Classic's been really good in PvT. I honestly, looked at this side of the bracket, and, obviously Björn's been good against Maru in TvT lately. I honestly was kind of excited to see if we could get Classic versus Maru, because I do think Classic's PvT is good enough to contest. We'll see if that's true, and we'll see if Maru just says that he's on a complete other level, basically. Yo, Japoeta, thank you so much for the Prime sub. I really appreciate it. You liked some interviews, at least during the last day? That is a problem of having no money to pay a translator. And also because the other thing is as well, I was a bit conscious about how long the days could be. And yesterday and today aren't turning out to be super long, actually. But by the time you add in 10 minutes of interviewing between games and stuff, that can just add a whole hour to the day for the Koreans, which is already starting to run into the night. My priority's always been to, produce high-quality games and a good experience for the players, and I feel like adding interviews in, when I also suck at interviewing, was not something that was actually valuable to the tournament, so that's why we didn't have interviews, at least for this season. Maybe we can improve it in the future. And yeah, about the long day, obviously, Classic having to play from round 1. The original plan was to do the first 2 matches on each side of the bracket on day 1, and then the rest of the bracket on day 2. The problem with that was that one of our players couldn't play. One of the players that got into one of the first matches couldn't play on day 1. So we had to reschedule and basically do half the bracket on day 1 and half the bracket on day 2, which I think the majority of players do like. Obviously, it's a bit brutal for Classic, for example, but Classic might even say he prefers that as well because he didn't have to show up yesterday, and it means he had the full weekend free until tonight. So, yeah, I mean, that's kind of a win some, lose some in some situations as well, right? Anyways, outside of that, let's, I guess, go back into TvP. Just gonna have our siege tanks, Cyclone all setting up. The couple of Phoenix moving forward, and the Cyclone's gonna lock on. Medevac is gonna provide the vision. We lose one lock on, we will lose the other. So Maru will not do too much there. And there's additional barracks up. It'll be fun to see, the difference of Maru's TvP versus Björn's TvP. A lot of the time I felt like Björn, used to be quite inspired by Maru. Nowadays, maybe not quite so much, but, they're very good friends, and I'm sure they discuss the matchup a lot. It'll be interesting to see what kind of Maru's approach is in comparison. I think Maru might go for some more aggressive 2 bases, some SCV pulls that we didn't see out of Bjorn, while also being very comfortable to play the much longer macro game that Bjorn never really got into a single time. Like, he got into an altitude and it was one big fight and it was over. I'd be sort of surprised if, unless Maru just kind of sweeps this series in quick games, we didn't see that kind of longer kind of game where Maru just sort of turtles up and lets Classic attack into him. He just deflects and ends up eventually winning with insane late game control, right? 2 Cyclones lock on, a couple of probes go down, a few Marines firing up, and the Adept taking some damage. The 1-1 upgrade's already beginning on the side of Maru, the racks reducing as well. Colossus, Phoenix, all producing here. The extended thermal lance about halfway done. That barracks is going to land on over to the tech labs. Again, that tech lab up and running. Stimpak is going to start. 1-1 upgrades are still coming through, and a couple of Cyclones are going to pull back over to the left-hand side. +1 attack, +1 armor, stim, combat shield, all of that still coming into play right now. We do just have our Twilight and our Forge still producing. The extra gates are on the way up. Extended thermal lance is on the way too. It's just a lot of stuff being built for the moment here in this game 1. I mean, Maru not going overly aggressive, right? Just sort of sitting back. Reaper kind of got through. A couple SCVs died, a couple probes died. Pretty standard kind of slow-going game for the moment. Interesting to kind of swing the series, the map videos around from the last series, though, by the way, because we obviously ended the last series on Grezvan. We start this series on Grezvan. This is Maru's map pick, so he wants to open on Grezvan. Interesting to see such a diversity in then what maps are going to be chosen compared to what we saw in that previous TvP. Just kind of different styles of the Terran players. I mean, Grezvan definitely allows you to play that nice big macro game if that's what you want to aim toward. We'll drop down to Nexus here, get a couple of pylons setting up. Our tanks, our Cyclones, our Marines all spreading, and we do have our 1-1 upgrades, our stim and combat shields all finishing as well. Just a couple extra gates just keep on coming through charge, +1. All of that producing for the moment. The Ghost Academy is coming up to be about halfway done as well. The Raven is still out overhead. And obviously you want to protect that Raven from the Phoenix, but don't let those Phoenix just run rampant either, so you want to keep kind of up with that too. As our Phoenix get into the main base, they're going to start going through a whole chunk of these SCVs. They're actually going to start getting a bunch of damage out of this. 10 SCVs go down. Ghost Academy finishes, and our first Ghost coming up. I mean, nice damage from Classic. Getting in, getting some damage dealt, and again, Maru just very comfortable sitting back. Doesn't feel pressure to move across the map. Doesn't feel pressure to go and do things he doesn't want to do. Just sort of sets up, plays a nice, slow, steady opening, because he knows in a longer macro game, he is such a formidable opponent. His control is so freaking good that he's going to be extremely tough to break down. So he has no fear at all about potentially going to that kind of stage of the game. As it just continues with the upgrades, we do take a chance of... Well, I mean, his army just sits a bit further forward. We'll see if he actually wants to move out. He's going to move out, and the scan still watching his army, so I'd be kind of surprised that's a genuine move out, because why not just wait the extra 2 seconds for the scan to fade, and then Maru doesn't necessarily know that you're making your way across the map. I just feel like that would have been... would have made a bit more sense, maybe, but who am I to criticize these guys? Either way, I mean, obviously, you don't have to fully commit. You can kind of start moving, then actually not go, right? At any point, I suppose. Just gotta be careful you're not out of position for a drop. Obviously, vision going to be very important here. If you look at Classic's vision, you can see I think he has decent vision, like here and here. It's not amazing. This observer is one of the key parts, but there's nothing to really spot a drop that would come down, you know, the left sort of side of the map and work its way into the bottom side, new base coming up, or potentially even dropping into the main. Those Zelds do nothing, and the Prism actually flies past a missile turret on the way in. Oh my god, the missile turret placement is perfect from Maru to shut the Prism down. Unfortunately, well, I mean, not really unfortunately, but Classic does turn and find the way in, which is to kind of dive between the turrets, but then you're still very committed, and the units can deal with the rest of that. 2 SCVs and the Prism play completely denied. Those 2 turrets were perfect for stopping the Prism from getting to where it wanted to be unhindered, and that just forced Classic into a bit of a weird, tough spot. Had to try and figure a way out of that. Yeah, he tried his best, but I mean, you have so few options at that stage, and the prism's so low, it's so easily picked off. Yeah, just like I say, I like I like the approach, honestly, from Maru's defense. His Zealots will charge forward. I'm actually going to try and get a couple siege tanks here. As this game goes on, tanks are more of like a backup sort of defense, right? They're sort of just left there and they'll get a few shots off, but don't really foresee Maru rebuilding a high amount of siege tanks, because the more tanks you have in this situation, the less you really have overall, because tanks are not great against the higher Zealot counts. It's going to get to that sort of phase where you just can't really make the tanks valuable enough. Unless you have like a lot of tanks. Like if you have 10 or 12 tanks, maybe certain positions become just completely unengageable, but yeah, the longer this goes, the less likely it is that you can really just make tanks work for you in lower numbers. So you're not going to rebuild any of those. Ghost Liberator is going to be much more effective. I was going to use the Phoenix to tank, allowing the Prisms to come in. Double Prism gets into the main base then, and we're going to set up both of them so we have a double warp infield just to guarantee one of these will last for the warp in. So SCVs start to go down. Maru drops into the main base to respond to this. At the same time, we're going to start pushing with this main army, but I mean, Maru's defense looks unstoppable, quite frankly. 2 Liberators, you know, Ghost right there, a couple of Vikings. The fact he kind of pushed back the drop in the main with so little issue is obviously going to mean that he was able to, you know, guarantee that defense was going to be everything it needed to be here. And actually, this is not too great either. We're going to try and snipe the Zealots. We will not save +3 attack, as now Classic tries to attack into this forward location. A couple of Disruptors will go for the Siege Tank and a handful of SCVs, but Classic honestly just loses units and gains absolutely nothing in this sequence of events. The defense was nigh on perfect. Classic did nothing. He did absolutely nothing. He killed so few SCVs for how many Zealots he committed. He still has 1 Warp Prism in the top corner, but I mean, all the ideas from Classic are great. You know, in any other game, I feel like Classic would be doing so much damage, but Maru is currently just saying, no. Classic, you forgot. It's my TvP superpower. I don't take damage! It's like, oh my god, Maru, what is your weakness? The Prism actually does come back in, and this is where Maru will take a bit more damage, because obviously he didn't notice that Prism survived, otherwise he would have gone after it with Vikings already. So we now get 8 SCVs, which is something. Like, hooray, like it's a start, but there's nothing else going on with these Zealots. So the 8 SCVs is pretty much the cap of what they can find. They got a turret. Yes, we killed off the Ghost Academy. Maru still needs to start a +3 attack again. When his +3 armor finishes, maybe he just uses the same engineering bay instead of having to rebuild another, when he's not going to use the engineering bays or double engineering bays much beyond that point. So thinking that's maybe the plan there. As Classic kind of gets a dive where these Liberators were not initially sieged, but the Stalkers were so far away, trying to get rid of that Planetary Force. But the Planetary is surviving, and Maru is going to push this back. He is indeed going to keep the base alive. Vikings chasing. Stalkers will blink for the Vikings, but the Vikings commit to get rid of the last Colossus as well. Maru instantly starts +3 attack when that +3 armor finishes, by the way. So 100% planned to go into that upgrade just when the other one finished, instead of rebuilding an engineering bay. So I'll try and move in at the front, but they will not really find too much at all. So let's peel them back around the top side, and just seeing a few Disruptors going to try and launch some attacks in here as we drop down a couple of SCVs. The missile turret going down also. He did rebuild the engineering bay? Oh, my bad. He did indeed. He just waited. It felt like he just waited until +3 armor finished and then kind of went from there. Did he start +3 attack? Yeah, I feel like he rebuilt the engineering bay and has never used it. Anyways, doesn't really matter. We've got the Prisms diving into the base. Thanks for pointing out. To be fully accurate, as we do have a few Zealots dropping down. And well, I mean, Classic, at least being the busy player, is able to kind of just sort of do what he wants on the map otherwise, get some DTs in now. Look at resources lost, a 6k difference already. Liberator sieging up, hard for the Stalkers to hit over here. We do have +2 ship weapons, so the Stalkers get 2 shots. Well, Zealots coming around as well as we try and take base number 6 as Maru. It's going to knock down, apparently we just anti-armor missile that DT, or was it a Zealot or something? Whatever it was, seemed like a little bit of overkill to me, but okay. Not sure it really needed all of that nuking power onto it, quite frankly, but you know, all good. We'll get by. We'll live. Danny LeVeteran, thank you so much for the 9-month resub. Hello, nice afternoon to you as well. Thank you so much for resubscribing. As we have again Classic running through the top. Army positioning in the center as Zealots launch their way onto that initial bunker. This CC will, well, get cancelled. Maru knows it's going to die. Has to stay back from the Disruptors, man. The Libs are just getting so much every time you try and fight here as Classic. A handful of SCVs going down. Maru just has so much army supply, though. Yes, he's down 40 workers, but he's up all of that worker supply and army supply. And he has a bit of a bank to work with anyway because he's been trading so well. He just doesn't need to be on a higher worker count. Resources lost now an 8,000 difference. We're building Tempests and more Stargates. I don't hate it. You know, if you think about it right, this is maybe one of the ways to potentially try and get into some sort of trading as Classic, because at least the Tempest can ping from afar and maybe you can find some value over time. Maybe there is something to be done there. A few Liberators will continue to siege. The Disruptor shot firing through. Doesn't quite manage to land, though. Not fully. The Stalker's coming in. Our Bio Army begins to launch onto this Nexus. So the Nexus begins to take some damage as well. And just seen another Disruptor shot firing, but isn't really aimed at anything. Maru just across the map. And as we were saying, his army is massive, and boy, is it good. Liberators for days. Oh, yeah, he's going to play dodgems with the Disruptor, sure, but the Liberators are just going to sit there and do as they wish. And they're just going to completely dominate this entire army of Classic, who is just bullied into his own natural. Maru's supply is dipping, but I still don't see Classic actually having a way to deal with this army, man. The Liberators just siege on top of him again. Okay, a mass assault from the left side, but they're on their own. And they get EMP'd, and they will begin to drop very quickly, so they take a bunch of damage as well. Liberators will unsiege. They will move toward the main base. And we are going to be seeing our Bioforce splitting up a little bit. Disruptors are going down. This army of Maru was just absolutely unkillable here. As we are going to find a few more probes in this game. Number 1 is going to absolutely go in Maru's favor. Classic just going to maybe try 1 or 2 more things, try something else towards the very tail end of this. As we have a few more Libs sieging. I mean, he's still trying to rally units in. He's got another round of Zealots here, an EMP from Maru. Does he finally clean this up? He might, but he's down so much army supply. Maru's already reinforcing across the map with units that should be able to go the entire distance. They should be able to go the full way. The Medivacs come to unload in the center. 10 more Stalkers building up. A Disruptor coming through. An EMP goes down. The few Zealots are getting picked away at. I'm just going to be seeing these Libs continue to set up in the next couple of moments as well. Just going to be seeing our Lib sieging. And Bio still trying to fight a couple of these Zealots. Trying to charge in. I mean, probes already being pulled in isn't exactly fun for you either. Marauder will come back through, and this army in the top right is, again, doing everything it can, pulling the probes and all sorts just to try and stay in this game. Trying to do absolutely, like I say, everything, but there's only so much that can be done. Maru has way too much. Maru has this game number 1. A pretty excellent display of just everything that happened there. As, yeah. Can't really say much more than that. This base is hanging on by a thread. Classic not going to give it up until the very end. More snipes, EMPs, keeping everything down. Plus, like, man, I got 1 down on my way here, Maru. I'm going to wear you down as much as I can. Bio jumps forward. Disruptor goes down. The Nexus will fall. Another base of Classic dropping as he still has a 6 o'clock base set up. He's trying to run around with a couple of DTs. Trying to see if there's any possible opening or opportunity for him to take advantage of. Scan. I mean, DTs blink away. We second scan. We have concussive shells. Oh, just out once again. We scan over here. The planetary will be able to deal with this eventually. And a couple of High Templars moving over. CC still building up. Marauders now Liberator continuing in, and just seeing this army of Maru pushing forward. Ghosts are going to end up going to the frontier. Are going to run straight on in. It's going to be having the Archons just getting melted. GG's, and Maru is going to take game number 1. Thank you for sitting through the break, guys, as we welcome you back to this series. Sorry, I had to nip BRB. It's very rare that Ellie jumps up on me while I'm casting, so she definitely needed something, and just had to take her out quickly. So apologies for a slightly extended break between game 1 and 2, but we're back into it. In the bottom left, putting up a hell of a fight, but sometimes it just feels like anything he did was just never going to be enough. Let's see what he can do in Game 2 here on Altitude. It is Classic in the bottom left. In the top right, our blue Terran player from Onside Gaming is going to be Maru. An absolute legend that everyone's always so excited to see. I was so excited to have him be part of our event, obviously, as well. Great to have him here, and we'll see if he can take it down today. Obviously, one map up against Classic in this semi-final. The winner of this plays Hero in the grand final, best of 7 following this series, so lots of games to go. This best of 5, follow-up best of 7. We've still got some StarCraft ahead of us, my friends. Exciting stuff. SEV and Probe will nibble each other and just run around a little bit as we get set up. Command center on the high ground here from Maru, pretty safe. Big map. Obviously one that generally the pros like. We'll see what Classic's approach is going to be. As, like I say, last game just felt as though Maru was absolutely impenetrable, though, so be hard-pressed for Classic to find a way to break him here. I guess we'll see what the approach will be, like I say. Why not both semifinals in another day? Because of how the schedule works. Basically, we had one player that couldn't play yesterday, so instead of doing 4 matches yesterday and then 5 matches a day with different halves of the bracket, we had to do one half of the bracket yesterday and one half of the bracket today. Which some players prefer anyway, by the way, just because it means they only have to be here for 1 day instead of 2. So, yeah, I mean, that's kind of why. And also just because we didn't want to make it 3 days because I didn't have 3 days to give up and I wanted it all to be on the weekend, so. TLDR, we did what was best for the players. Yo, Delta, thank you so much for the Prime sub. Appreciate it, keeping us just above that 1,000 sub count. Thank you so much. Thank you as we get our Adept moving through. Obviously, the CC is still on the high ground, so that's not actually on the low ground yet. So the Adept can't really do much. First Marines will pop out on the safe side of this wall-off, and the Adept will be hard-pressed to really do much with those Marines there. More Marines will pop out shortly. Cyclone's still on the way in. And yo, Blue Revy, thank you also for dropping the Prime sub on the channel. Much appreciated as well. Thank you so much for choosing this channel to be your Prime support for the month. Really appreciate it. I promise we'll put it into more awesome StarCraft. Is the finals best of 7? Yes, so this is the last best of 5 today, because after this is the finals, which is indeed a best of 7. And of course, there's no upper bracket or lower bracket or anything like that, so it's just straight up best of 7 too, which I'm excited about. Because sometimes we do the best of 7, but like someone has a 1-0 lead and stuff like that, so this is just straight up best of 7 coming at you as well. Next time, moving towards the main, going to turn back around. Thank you, Erda1010 for the Prime for the 23 months, and also Joe Shock for the Prime. Pressing you as well. Thank you so much, guys, again, for the support. As we just go through what is kind of the expected opening, I guess, of Classic, which is Phoenix into what seems to be the Robo Bay, and soon the Colossi. I mean, no Robo Bay yet, but that's the expected next step. That's exactly what he did against Beyond on this map, and he hasn't played very passively. The thing is, when you play very passively, and Maru plays passively, you know, what usually feels good for the Protoss feels good for the Terran, because Maru is just so good in those sort of situations, so very, like I say, very intrigued to see what sort of changes Classic makes from Game 1 to Game 2. Yeah, the map's very different, but if it overall has the same vibe, something has to change, because it, you know, it just wasn't good enough in Game 1 for Classic. Like, he eventually ended up against this army of Maru that was unkillable. And that was obviously, you know, very tough to then do anything against, and he just got completely pushed back in his base, and he just never was able to do anything from there. The Cyclone gets pushed back. We see the few Marines coming through the siege tank. A decent first push, and the Phoenix taking so much damage means they're vulnerable now for this push as well. This is why you build these Immortals, because pushes like this can be very difficult for you to deal with if you don't have a little bit of extra firepower in the army. First Immortal shots onto the tank. The tank does get a second shot off onto the sentry there. The Cyclone gets dropped down. The Immortals are way too chunky to kind of plow through, though, as the Terran players, so don't really see those Immortals dropping. And Classic is able to continue pushing across the map. Marines load into the Medivacs. The full-on escape is being made. And that command center setting up on the natural as well, so getting that CC. finished on the net. Few more racks coming up. Engineering base still coming through. Thermal lens also still producing. As Classic does. The natural kind of transition into those Colossi obviously was pretty safe, though. I mean, he kind of had to be the 2 Immortals. Some would say is overkill, but I think that sort of push from Maru can be so deadly if you're underprepared. So Classic just guaranteeing he gets to see this next stage of the game, but I mean, you can already see 51 workers a piece. Usually, the Protoss player holds a little bit of a worker lead in this matchup, so that's already quite a nice little setup for Maru. Yeah, we'll see. I mean, the odds are kind of stacked against Classic here. We'll see if he can pull off some miracles, but if Maru is in form and Maru's in shape, and I know it probably sounds like I'm just tooting Maru's trumpet and just, you know, praising him and everything. I was doing exactly the same for Classic earlier with how well he was playing. It's just Maru is that step above, and it is 100% right now. Kind of on Classic's shoulders to show us that he can rise up to that level. Otherwise, yeah, you know, that game 1 really made Maru just look invincible. Yo, Curry King 94, thank you so much for your subscription. Starting off the second hype train of the day. Oh my goodness. The first one didn't quite leave the station. Let's see how hype train 2 does. As our gateway production comes in, obviously we are ramping up to start, you know, adding on to these Colossi and these Phoenix. Temple Archives will build as well. Maru doesn't have all of his bio upgrades yet, so unlikely to see him do anything until those upgrades are in place. And with the style that Classic is playing, I feel like it's almost unlikely to see Maru necessarily playing into that at all anyways, right? Because, again, Maru is happy to sit back and play defensive, so that's kind of the conundrum. What is usually good for the Protoss does not necessarily work when Maru feels so confident in that stage of the game. So yeah, definitely a bit of a conundrum. Yo, Crankon, thank you for the Prime sub for 3 months as 3 Phoenix wreak havoc on this mineral line. And Bucket Chopper on the fresh new sub as well. Thank you so much, guys. Really a bit of a hype train. Really a bit of a sub train, actually. Hell yeah, thank you so much as 10 STVs go down. Pretty good harass. I mean, it's a good way to slow down that Maru economy that little bit. Maru is going to move out with his upgrades, so he feels pretty reasonable. Worth noting, obviously, then, he does have the full energy Raven, so he can knock 2 Colossi out of place. And, I mean, if you look at the timing he could potentially hit, I guess he's going to be there just after charge is done, so at least that will be finished from Classic. I mean, still a scary time where you've got 1-1. Your opponent will have maybe only 1 Colossus in this fight initially. Definitely a point where you can probably do decently for Maru. If this push came a minute later, I don't think I like it as much, but that's the, you know, great part about these attacks. This crispness of this, the crispness of them and the timing of them being so precise. But EMP the Phoenix, which means you can't lift up the siege tanks now as well. So the siege tanks are going to be a little bit more dominant coming into this than they were before. The Colossus firing, the tanks taking some fire, the Phoenix coming through, hitting the medevac a little bit up in the skies. Classic deciding if he wants to push into this or if he wants to wait for Maru to push into him. We drop the double matrix, so the Colossi are taken out of the equation for a few moments. That allows you to run on in. Up the ramp we go. We're going to chase down the Immortals. Maru committing hard. The thing is, the siege tanks cover the space running from the 3rd to the natural, so the rest of the army is still getting shelled, chasing that Bioforce down. The Zell's getting on top of the tanks. The Archons, too, are able to get rid of a good amount of them, and that is going to be a hold from Classic. This fight does not quite go Maru's way as he peels back. And does Classic want to go hunting? I don't think so. I don't think he has enough to go hunting across the map and punishing Maru for this loss on the map. I think that's just going to be it for now. Ooh. The Classic does hold. Classic has a defense. And that is exactly what we needed to see. Thank you so much, Tezather1 for the 4-month resub. Thank you so much, ALGS, for the raid. And thank you, Pranix, for the sub for 3 months in advance. Thank you so much, guys. I really appreciate all of the support streaming on through. Thank you so much as our Bioforce comes back around the side. Pave on the 100 bits as well as +2 and Blink. Come on in. Classic will continue to upgrade, continue to improve his army. Getting to the point, obviously, where the Phoenix aren't really a factor, so Blink is needed to protect the Colossi a bit more against what's likely to be Vikings coming up. The good thing here was you kind of reset the tank count. Maru's going to go back into tanks, though, so this time around he's kind of feeling like more tanks are the way to go. We'll see if that is true or not. I just want to be about last game, kind of how the tanks and the tank count is something you don't necessarily always rebuild into as the Terran player, right? So, definitely feel like that's probably something of a factor. Maru's actually back on the map as a SCV's a long distance mine. There's some Zealots over there to maybe catch them a little bit. The Colossi are going to be able to get some good damage done initially. Now the Vikings starting to work through though. The EMP is definitely going in favor of Maru, hitting quite nicely. Oh man, Maru just melted the Colossi. Well, now the splash damage is gone for a few moments. Can we still hold on? Can we still make a defense out of this? Or are we in a bit too much trouble? Yeah, Maru's going to turn around. He's not going to continue pushing through for the moment. This orbital command lifting off from that right-hand side. See our armory still coming up as well in the back corner, so get that armory up. You do see a bit of bio still coming through, and siege tank helping out. Again, more tanks coming into play. Classic has 80 probes, so he has kind of the workers to be able to kind of, you know, rebuild. He's obviously trading quite badly here. Maru's trading efficiently, which is... yeah, I mean, that's kind of the crazy thing, right? I mean, I guess it's okay as long as you have the eco lead. Usually that, you know, big old Protoss army is meant to be somewhat efficient, though, and that's just not the case. Maru is losing a lot of SCV's mine, so his economy taking shots. That might not matter, though, if he can deal enough damage to Classic's economy right now, and also if he just, you know, this army just never gets halted. A lot rides on these next few moments. Classic's doing what he needs on the other side of the map, but will lose out on his own 4th base. He has a base on the 9 o'clock. That will act as a 4th for now. And he is building the 5th top left-hand corner, so he has replacement base. He has somewhere to send those probes to. He can keep mining comfortably with about a 20-worker lead at the moment. Spy army peels back over to the left-hand side, so just pulling back over here. A few ghosts involved, and they're ready to come and drop some EMPs down on this mineral line. Probes have to pull away. Our couple of libs will siege and begin to work our way through the base there. The Bioforce getting surrounded by these Zealots. The Zealots go into town on Marauders and Marines. We'll see, losing that left side base from Classic is kind of rough as we just get overrun here. Disruptors are not connecting because Maru just splits. That one will connect at least. Maru a little bit misjudged. He kind of went in toward it, but yeah, kind of backfired. Like I say, that wasn't really exactly how you wanted things to pan out. 33 dead SCVs though, so once again, Classic on the counterattack is putting in some serious work. It's a lot of Zealots, and Maru might not have an answer to that straight away. He's starting to get a few more reinforcements up. But Disruptor shot, you need as many of those as you can get right here if Classic's going to edge this army supply back in his favor, and if he's going to be able to close out this game. The problem for Classic really stands as just the fact he doesn't really have mining himself, so even though he's denying a lot of SCVs, his probes aren't doing anything. He's going to recall a chunk of them top left. That's so necessary. That's the base that is alive. If he can mine, he can close the gap on army supply, and then he might actually be in this game. Classic is fighting tooth and nail to the end of this second map. He does not want to fall 0-2 behind against Maru, and he's doing absolutely everything he can to try and make absolutely sure of that. Zealot's getting picked off. A couple of Ghosts will be lining up. A couple of Archons will obviously have to be careful. A couple of EMPs, and they will just melt. Really need that Disruptor support to try and zone out the Ghosts or to push other units away here just in general. So Maru just going to line up a few snipes, get a couple Zealots. Any value is good value typically. Now still only on 37 SCVs. He's starting to rebuild a few of those. His own 4th base on that right side is one that's obviously not come up all too easily so far. Coming around, obviously. The fact that Maru doesn't know about the upper left base is a big deal, because if he knew about that base, he'd very easily be able to get rid of it. Not knowing about it means it's somewhere that Classic gets some mine from, and obviously it offsets kind of the balance of this game, and will potentially mean that some of the decisions that Maru is currently making are going to become completely incorrect. Well, tanks will end up going down. The Ghosts will clean up those, so those Zealots will not last too much longer than that. Stalkers are chasing down the medevacs I had to load up here. We blink forward. We are going for the empty one. We don't quite grab it. That is a major lag spike. Is that me? That is TKL. Alright, hopefully I'm back up and fixed and no further issues, as I don't think it affected anything there. The medevac was out of reach of the Stalkers. The blink was on cooldown. We do actually catch a couple of Disruptors down on this bottom side. 1 Disruptor, 2 Disruptor, both getting knocked away at here. Now Stalkers and the Archon will go straight for this orbital command. That orbital command is going to go down. Maru loses his third base. Some Zealots hitting the right side fourth. Classic going to lose his 6 o'clock, but he does still have the far left side of the map operational at the moment, so that is a big deal still. That is definitely a factor, as we do see this base going down. Oh my goodness. Classic is going to keep on pushing forward, but he has 30 less army supply. Maru has so much more. Base trade initiated as we move into the other side of the map. Classic's actually going to recall home. He'll lose a robo, though. Disruptive production halted for now. Half the robos, and also one of them completely unpowered. Maru again trying to escape away. Big army top left. He finds the final mining base, a Classic, and that's a major pick as well. That's something that Classic was really holding on to as a way to stay in this game. That mining has been so phenomenal for him, as now neither player is really mining at all. A medevac of units going down. Big pick. Every unit going to count for a lot right now as the army supplies even out. 79 to 77. Another full medevac. Does not go down. It gets away. Stalkers cannot stay in reach. They will not get the kill. Getting rid of a couple Widow mines here, trying to clear those up. Vikings on the ground getting disrupted. And a couple more mines going down too. It's Maru's army supply that is bleeding on out. And Classic staying in between these bases, fighting, like I say, with everything that he's got. Talk about putting in an effort. Apparently this is what it takes to knock Maru down. And he's not there yet, but it's looking good for him. 20 army supply difference in Classic's favor. He's gonna get fully surrounded, but he's got disruptors to go every which way. They're flying out in all sides, and Classic, can he hold on? Does he have enough with the disruptors falling apart now? There's Marauders left over. The Marauders are great against Stalkers. Are they actually gonna be enough? A few last SCVs coming forward. Classic should have the numbers. That one Archon getting EMP'd on the right side, it does go down as well. The medevacs have nothing in them, and GG is called. Classic will just about finish off game number 2 in his favor, and he's going to take it down with one massive fight in the center of altitude in a ridiculous game 2 to tie up our set. TLDR, the fact that there's just a full-on wall off there means you don't need the bunker, whereas on the third base you do need the bunker because there's not a way to fully wall the third to stop Zealots getting in, I suppose is what I'm trying to say. Just don't wall that natural at all. I mean, that's also just part of just believing that you're going to have reinforcements there to deal with the natural, I guess. All right. Game number 3, 1-1 tied up. What a game number 2. Absolutely bananas second map. And, well, we just hope the rest of the series continues like this. Is Maru going to build a barracks on the map now? So barracks is going to be set out onto the map a little bit to start out with. As that probe runs up into the main. A little bit of a scout around, a little bit of a check to see what is going on. Are you guys ready for the penguin joke of the day? Okay, never mind. The penguin joke's terrible. Not even going to try and say that one. It's completely... It's just bad. Alright, I'll save you guys the pain. Alright, straight back into the StarCraft, as most people probably would like. Yeah, obviously proxy... Kind of proxy racks, you know, it is forward a little bit. Obviously, there's the bunker coming up between the pylon and the Nexus. Means that you can actually kind of wall the Zealot out from being able to hit a lot of where the SCV will stand to build. Which is very frustrating. Gonna see bunker actually just cancelled though. We did lose the SCV, so Zealot actually getting the denial, which initially I would have said that was not necessarily kind of a given or a guarantee or anything, so good on you, little Zealot. Good on you. Job well done. Natural defended. Well, Stargate is producing on the side of Classic, and that's going to be his tech once again. Pretty much reliant on just sitting on the Stargate. Time and time again, 100% behind that. I think that's absolutely fine. Reaper. Just going to grab a couple of probes. You are going to see the Reaper going down. I mean, he gets a full scout off, though, sees the Stargate. I think at this point you can probably roughly assume what Classic might like to do, which is probably go into some Phoenix. to get things started at the very least. The Zealot Adept combo is decent until the Cyclone pops out, and then you lose an Adept, and now you're going to lose the Zealot. Oh, you're going to recall the Zealot, which is obviously 50 energy expended, which could have been potentially something else. And actually, we're going to go Magfields. You know, Maru's been opening double Cyclone a couple of times. Now we're actually going to go more than 2 Cyclones with Magfield. In fact, he's got a second factory building. Holy crap, Maru. This isn't going to just be, like, properly mech. I mean, is it? I mean, can you play 2 factories into some kind of bio follow-up? I would say no in TvP, but is he actually going to try and play mech? Magfield just continuing through Cyclone. It's about halfway in at the moment. Our orbital command coming up. I am genuinely curious. I mean, is it just some kind of like heavy Cyclone opening, or are we actually going to turn this fully into mech after? I'm fascinated. Sign me the hell up. Obviously, Cyclones do pretty darn well against Phoenix right now because of the Magfield giving them plus 10 damage against everything. Then the Phoenix will really melt. Stuff like the Immortals take less damage to the Cyclones than they used to, though, so that's kind of a nerf compared to the pre-patch Cyclones. Here we go, Maru going to start moving out. A group of Marines. I feel like this is not necessarily meant to turn into fully mech because I'm pretty sure it's a lot about this attack right now more than anything else. As Maru begins to move across the map with, again, these Cyclones and these Marines. We'll see if anything happens here that allows this game to go on. There's no battery in the natural, by the way. It's classic misreading this because he's not setting up a battery either. I feel like... Oh, sorry, there's a battery right there. I am completely blind. It's literally in the front. Good job, Wardy. Solid eye usage right there. I was looking like deeper on the natural. I actually don't like the battery being in the front because that's obviously very easily locked onto and killed off. So then the battery may as well not have been here. There we go. It will go down. The Phoenix take this as an opportunity to come forward, though. And this is obviously your best chance where there's no lock-ons available, so that turns out pretty decently. A lot of the Marines actually still fighting here as the Cyclones lock onto the Immortals, and the Immortals take some damage. Extra Cyclone about to show up. Can we finish off these Immortals? One of them there. Oh, we lock onto the higher HP one. That's going to be an easier, quick little grab, of course. These Phoenix do not have energy left over. Locking onto a Stalker. The low HP Immortal is still alive. And we are going to see these last couple of Marines getting cleaned out. This attack of Maru is going to be stopped. Behind this, still more Cyclones being made, more Marines, a third CC on the way up. Cyclone just going to get lifted, just going to get taken down. We're going to be seeing our couple of Phoenix continuing to drop, and we do have the, well, CC in the front. That's going to be CC number 3, currently being brought into play as well. It's continuing to produce charge on the way. We are going into a third factory. Maru going to double down on the mech play following this opener. Like I say, I'm not quite convinced this is ever meant to be fully committed into mech play. I'm pretty sure this opening was meant to just do a lot on its own accord, but here we are, guys, as Cyclones and Marines. I'm going to go moving on forward. Just see our bunker. So not bunker, our depot coming up the front. A little bit of walling off being done. A bit of SimCity can help a lot as well. Gonna move out again. I mean, we'll see if the Master Cyclones will be able to do enough, as Classic is out on the map. This group of Phoenix. A big role to play against the Cyclones, because if they can lift up a chunk of them, then you're taking away a lot of the DPS that's currently in this army, so that would be a big thing to be able to do. If you can do that, then brilliant. There you go. We lift up the mines before they do anything, and now the Cyclones getting lifted up one by one. Classic is going to work his way through this army without issues. Another couple of Cyclones getting lifted, and he is just going to wipe this out, man. I mean, yeah, we lose a lot of the Phoenix, but all of the Cyclones getting reset, that can't possibly be good for the mech player. SCV's retreating away. Third base will not be allowed to be taken. This is where this wall-off's going to be very important. The SCV's derping back and forth. Oh my god, they just got locked out! That SCV right there, he's a traitor! He just said, you're not allowed in! This is my house and my house only! And Maru is going to die as Classic has way too much and takes the 2-1 lead in this best of 5. As in the top right-hand corner, down a map. It is going to be on the verge of elimination, our favorite, or many's favorite for this tournament, Onside Gaming's Maru. Looked amazing game 1, had a very close game 2, got demolished game 3. It's a little bit of everything so far in this, as we get it all underway in this map number 4. Classic in the bottom left-hand side, looking to cause the upset, and what a run this would be. Classic's been great lately, but to come all the way through, if he was able to take down Maru, after taking down Bjorn and Scott and Kraden, having a great group stage. Well, again, what a statement that would be from Classic into the finals against Hero in PvP. Very exciting. When do we get the replay pack? If you're a Indiegogo supporter, it'll be when the Indiegogo campaign ends in 11 days. The reason for that is, first of all, the Indiegogo rewards are specifically for Season 2, because that's what the Indiegogo is crowdfunding. That's not to say I'm not going to give you guys the Season 1 replays, but until the crowdfunding ends and the process goes through, there's potential for people to cancel or refund and stuff. So basically, like, once I send out the rewards, it's just that people... It's basically just because I have no way to send them out before then as well. Because Indiegogo doesn't give me a way to send rewards before the campaign is over. Because if the campaign's not over, in theory, you're not meant to give out rewards. You see what I mean? So that's the big problem. The minor problem is also some people would take the replay pack and cancel the donation and not pay, which I'm not really that bothered about. Very few people do it, although some people do it. It's mostly that I just don't have a way to actually give it out to people of a certain tier unless the campaign is over, so that's all. It'll go out much faster when it comes around to Season 2 because I'll already have a way to give you guys the replay pack versus having to wait for it to end. Sounds like blackmailing? Sure, why not? I'm blackmailing people. Like I say, it's just a case of getting the the campaign wrapped up. So it'll be in about 10 days. If you're super desperate for it earlier, feel free to message me. I'll find a way to get you sooner than that. Did I just say some people do? Some people do that. Yeah, they do it. Alright guys, triple CC from Maru. Stargate on the way. Surprisingly, no double factory. Gonna change it up here for this game number 4, huh? As the Adept is a little bit stuck, Shade Out is gonna get it away at least. We'll stick a few shots, nothing too major. Gonna be okay for now. Couple of labs, just a couple of Adepts trying to get up the ramp. Obviously trying to keep picking up vision, and two of them together can be quite annoying here. They go for the Marine. We'll get one extra SCV as well, so that's now 2 SCVs killed. You get an Adept. I actually think that was generally kind of okay, right? That wasn't too bad. So that seemed pretty reasonable. As they do have Stimpack coming through, the few additional Marines still coming up. And Reaper just coming back down to the bottom. So Reaper down to the bottom, gonna hop into the main. Stimpack building on the side of Maru. A couple of SCVs, a few Marines all coming up. And we do have our Reaper dropping a grenade down. Phoenix is gonna get a lift there as the Stalker comes in to start fighting against said Reaper. Stem again, coming up to completion, just seeing a couple of Marines still popping out. A third barracks also on the way through for the moment. We've seen this obviously kind of style-ish from Classic repeatedly. The Phoenix into a pretty quick Robobay after. Doesn't have a ton of Phoenix even, just a few Phoenix, get the Robobay going. That generally seems to be the plan. Get an SCV, I mean, again, with only a couple of Phoenix, there's only so much you can do, but grabbing an SCV already is nice. Maru's pushing on the map, guys. He does already have Stim. This 3-racked opener on the back of the 3CC means he's got a lot of units. And I don't think Classic is ready to defend the third base yet. The probe will give you a little bit of a heads up, but do we fight this? Group of Marines, they Stim, but they do not have any healing. Guardian Shield pops, dies instantly. Now the force fields go down. This is a panicked defense, though, from Classic. You can see it, right? Like, the couple sentries, but like initially he's like, ooh, Guardian Shield, and the sentry that dies instantly, and then the couple of other sentries drop force fields kind of haphazardly. He's going to survive. He lost a good amount, though. I mean, he lost 2 sentries. I guess it wasn't that bad. I guess it really started with the 2 sentries, but everything else was not so bad because then the Immortals just tanked the damage. And okay, Classic kind of holding on and currently pushing Maru back across the map. Still coming in there, taking away. Marines getting picked off. Of course, Maru has his 3rd CC now down onto position, so it's quite important that Classic gets his 3rd base up, because if the 3rd base ends up kind of cancelling, well, then you're going to be in a little bit of trouble, because your opponent's 3rd CC is so quick in comparison, right? So, definitely a factor. As our lag continues here.
Game paused.
Alright, well, give it a moment. Hopefully, we will be able to resume. Obviously, Korean server, guys, sometimes just kind of dies on us every now and again, so apologies for that. Korean server just not reliable for connections from Europe a lot of the time, so a little bit rough. We do have then resuming. A +1 attack coming up. An accent Thumberland's coming in. Of course, Maru has to win this game to stay alive. Ooh, you see this change, by the way? He loses those 2 Phoenix. He instantly cancelled the Phoenix in production. That's how big of a loss that was for Classic. That it actually changed what he wanted to do in this game. Because he was going to continue into Phoenix, but losing the 2 of them, he's now going to look and say, hey, you know, that's, you're going to look and basically say, hey, look, this is going to be not worth it. You know, I'm not going to get a good Phoenix count up. That's too far to rebuild. So he's going to completely give up on the Phoenix, which means he's playing a really bad army. Like, he has no blink. He has no way to really defend drops well. Like, there's a lot of ways that Maru can abuse and take advantage of the situation that develops from this setup. Fire's going to wrap around this army from 2 sides. As Classic, I think, a little bit of a desperation attack, honestly. Coming across this side after losing those Phoenix. Is it going to be enough for him? I really don't think so. I mean, the Colossi dead, the Immortals then dead. It just took a while for the Immortals to die, but obviously the Terran Bio just wasn't going down at all. There was no DPS onto it, so a chase on these last couple Stalkers, and Maru convincingly looking to take game number 4. Set us up for a game 5 in this semi-final. Both of our semis would be going to game 5s, and yesterday's semi went to game 5 as well. And losing those couple of Phoenix really changed everything from Classic, because I'm pretty sure he doesn't push there if he's building Phoenix at home. I feel like this was very much so a, oh crap, I lost my Phoenix, can't really justify building Phoenix, like brain meltdown, yeah, really not ideal, as you do see. What am I going to go off onto a Prism, by the way? A couple of Zards getting clunked down there as well. Drop down a gateway and just going to continue chasing in. The Medivacs will load up and escape out for the moment, and Maru is just going to continue to dominate this position. The Pylon taking some damage. Colossi continues to fall back. A couple of Marauders still coming through, do what they can. I mean, 1-1 upgrades against 0-0 as well. Classic is in a pit of despair in this game number 4, and we'll have to go game 5 here against Maru to try and win it out and make that grand final. They're going to pull away to the top side just a little bit. A couple of Stalkers still just reproducing, coming straight back in. But I mean, you're really replacing the good with the bad, right? I mean, the couple Colossi backup is great and all, but then it's just Stalkers, Stalkers, Stalkers. How much can Stalkers on their own really do here? Let's drop in the main base is something that you're well positioned to deal with, at least, as Classic, and even then you're not exactly doing brilliantly as Marauders just go Stalker hunting, just targeting down Stalker after Stalker. Thank you very much, we'll take those. Marine will drop the Stalkers and the Zealots. We'll back up the side, Medevac's going to load up, and away we potentially go into the main base again. Just fly straight over this Colossus. Hashtag no respect as we're going to recall in the main. I imagine we just stand here and trade as Maru is... Yeah, the Prism's going to save the Colossus. There is a Widow Mine that goes off, a couple more. Kind of blew up some Terran units, honestly. Wasn't super pretty. We've got mines going to block the access to this army on this third base, which is going to get a lot of work done. Extra Marauders actually running across here too. All the probes are just evacuating. 16 dead already, and the third base going down. It really does seem as though we are going to be seeing a Game 5 of this series. And like I say, both our semi-finals going to Game 5. The Korean Royale delivering. Widow Mines just going off again. So yeah, no third base. I mean, Classic's basically hoping to do it with this army, and they're basically saying, hey, I don't respect... I think Colossi are super OP, which would be kind of ridiculous if Colossi were this good. I think maybe you can push this portion of Maru's army back, but if Maru gets everything together, there shouldn't really be a contest here. I mean, all you need is some kind of half setups around, and he should be absolutely great. If even that. As you will see, a couple of Widow Mines still getting active on this side, blowing up a couple of probes. Actually trying to catch the Observer there, doesn't quite manage it. We're going to get rid of a few units over here as well. The Observer again blown up on this side, actually, as Widow Mines go off. Maru just going to pull back, wait for a few more reinforcements. Also, +2 attack just finished, so an extra upgrade. Now 2-1 against 0-0. Talk about dominance when it comes to upgrades. Zealots and probes are going to try and be the front line, but there's no damage output. Not against the upgrades, and without upgrades of your own. First Colossus goes down. Decent micro to keep the Colossi alive for a little while longer, but it's not going to be enough. We will go to all 5 maps in this series. Let's see who brings the best PvT to the table when it all really matters. In the bottom left corner of the map, our red Terran player is going to be, from Onside Gaming, Maru. In the top right, our blue Protoss has been putting up a hell of a performance here so far. Will it be enough? It is Classic. Alrighty, guys, coming down to this one. Game number 5. Winner plays hero in the grand final. Best of 7 following this up as well. Awesome. Awesome, awesome, awesome. Gotta say, I love how good of a fight Classic has been able to put up thus far. Being able to do some good things up until this point. Job very well done. That's how our simulator sets up. Gateway coming through, barracks. Producing nothing proxied, nothing out on the map here early. Just very standard to begin with. These early stages. Start first. As you can see, Zal coming up, Cybercore on the Nexus, all coming through. It's going to be seen at Command Center coming in, Orbital Command coming up, a Nexus just building. For Classic. Cornhole God 69, thank you so much for your subscription. Appreciate it. Thank you for supporting the stream, supporting our tournaments today. Really appreciate it as we just see our Zealot making its way out across the map. So Zealot on the way down to the bottom left. Factory already coming up. Command Center's over halfway done. Dig Big Minx, thank you so much for the 9-month resub on the Prime as well. Stargate again. Classic does not want to open with any kind of Twilight, any kind of Blink. He's just going to keep on relying on this Stargate here just repeatedly. He has been, so one thing that's definitely very true, I think, about Classic is that he doesn't build a load of Phoenix immediately. Like, he builds 2, 3, and then sets up the Robobay and everything. His Stargate production is anything but consistent, right? Like, he's always kind of cutting Stargate production for a little bit, and that kind of makes things, like I say, it feels like sometimes that's almost greedy against certain styles, but then it does allow him to get some Immortals out as well, so it's kind of a cool mix-up from the absolute kind of norm, I suppose. As the Zealot and a couple of Adepts just doing everything they can to be annoying here. Would love to get that SCV, which is a good grab. Obviously, we're stopping the natural expansion from building workers here initially, so really slowing this down, and a couple of Adepts just shading up. Keep a bit of vision on this high ground as well. Keep an eye on things, as we got to be careful about the Widow Mine. Don't want to give up a unit for free, as again, you're stopping SCVs from building all the time. You're swinging at this natural, so do that for a little while longer. Looks like Maru is maybe getting ready to move down to the low ground. He'll be able to move a mining position as well to help solidify. Can't really commit here with the Marines. Ideally, you don't have to use the mines here, because then you can take them across the map and drop, and that's exactly what Maru sets up to do. Still a Zealot in the two Adepts here, though, as the Zealot goes down. A couple of SCVs will get picked off. One Adept actually just dies before the Shade, so that is going to get picked off. Phoenix will come through, and Medevacs is going to go diving into the main. Both Widow Mines will drop, so the Phoenix will guarantee a kill on this Medevac eventually. Question is, how much time do we buy with the Widow Mine drop? Adepts are attacking into Marines and not exactly doing very well. One Widow Mine went off for one probe. That's about it for the moment. Mortal still on the way through for the moment. Starport lifting off, just going to move over to the side. Phoenix, Immortal all coming through, and a couple of extra probies coming up. Battery on the way. Some more barracks building from Maru's, getting those up and running as well. Everything gathers into the center. All said and done, resources lost. A little bit favorable towards Classic. Has the Phoenix now to dominate, and this time a few more Phoenix than what we've been seeing previously. It really has, like I said beforehand, been kind of a lower Phoenix count throughout. This one really is just that little bit more stacked up, then into the Robobay in the third base. So we've got a few more Phoenix to harass with, and that's going to keep Maru's economy a little bit further behind as he sets up onto the 3 racks. He'll get the stim and combat started. These are all things you know about here as Classic because you've had the vision with the Phoenix poking into the main base, so nothing that Maru is doing right now is going to come as a surprise to you. You're fully in the know, you're fully aware of what's going on. You're able to see exactly what's happening thus far. All those SCVs getting picked off. We got 2 gates going down over to the sides. Phoenix is pulling back up to the top as well. Sentry on the way out. Extended thermal land still being brought through too. Raven comes in from the bottom left corner. Obviously, we've been hiding that over there. Just keep it away from the Phoenix. I freaking love the, yeah, I freaking love the, freaking Raven hiding from the Phoenix. I don't know why, it's just so special to me. It's just so funny. You know? Just makes me laugh as, Marines, our Raven, our Cyclone. Going out the front, moving around. Twilight Council and the Forge all coming up. A couple extra gates coming by. Colossus and Extended Thermal Lands building. A couple of SCVs actually dropping down. A Phoenix. Over here, the SCVs getting picked off. So again, Classic doing a decent job of controlling this game. Just has to make sure his main army is going to be in a good place. Look at this. 500 to 1,300 resources lost. It's heading in the right direction. Classic up 20 workers. Maru, 3 racks. No third base. Thermal Land's going to be finishing up on that Robobay. We do grab a Phoenix to begin with. See, anything you can do to cut down that Phoenix count will help as Vikings on the way, and We pull a few SCVs with this. I honestly felt like we maybe could have seen some more, as we have the Phoenix going to try and get rid of a Viking initially. It would be great to get rid of the Raven. Full energy. Now, 3 Colossi. Classic setting up to make a defense that's going to send him through to the grand finals if he can hold here. He's down an army supply, but that's what the defensive position's for. We're going to lose a Phoenix? No, it stays alive only just around the top side. Going to start trying to set up turret. Classic comes in. Just get some free shots off. The tanks are sieged up quite far away right now. Get a couple of freebie shots. Don't take any damage while you dish out a little bit. Honestly, unfortunately, some of that was on the tanks, which can be repaired by the SCVs that were brought across. Classic's just waiting, though. +1 is closing in. Charge is closing in. And that's going to be really useful for helping him fight this. If he can charge in towards this position, break the tanks down more easily, the biggest issue is going to be the missile turrets. The missile turrets are something that's going to do so much to stop the Phoenix, stop the Colossi from taking a decent trade here. Classic just waits. How much can he give up before he can, how long can you just hold back on this, right? Like, you've got your natural currently under heavy attack. You're going to lose the robo facility. Well, he wasn't building much more. He does have zealots coming in from the other side. He is going to distract a little bit of the tank fire away. There's the Matrix, though. And the Matrixes do drop the Colossi, so they have to fall back again. We're now going to try and build up bunkers, but that was a lot of initial units lost here from Classic. If he could have forced the Matrixes and fallen back while only losing a couple units, then sure, but he lost a lot already. And Maru basically has position into the natural expansion of Classic right now. All that stands between Classic and the finals is a hold in this game. He ain't finding it. He finds a feedback with the High Templar there, and Archon will begin to morph. He's going to lose his natural, though. As Colossi trying to get in position to deal with this army, but the Vikings zone them out. And, well, Maru knows what that means. He means he can move up over to the side a little bit, and he is going to take that opportunity. Moving forward, Super Battery going up as you try and protect this Archon. It will stay alive for a little bit. Yeah, but you need to take a fight, right? I mean, Classic's still down about 20 army supply overall. A few more Zealots coming up. He's going to pull the probes. Some of the Zealots just went off the other way. I'm not sure where they went to. There's a lot of Marines clumped up. If the Colossi can just get some damage done, we load up into the Medivacs to retreat away. As Maru just has too much, though. I don't think Classic truly breaks through this. The bunkers are dropping, but there's so much bio left behind all of this. And Maru is just going to turn his attention to that upper left base. A lot of probes for the picking over here. And Classic only has 30 army supply to the 64. It looks like Maru is going to go to the grand finals as he tries Classic to get the tank. He doesn't even kill the siege tank here, and the SCVs will be able to repair it back up. Tank surviving, and honestly, I feel like that tank is a pretty good indicator of just what this series has been. It's been close, it's been hard fought, it's been a nail-biter. In the end, Maru is going to do it. Hats off to Classic. He put up a fantastic showing here, and he really made us believe here that he was going to take down Maru at points, I think. Just didn't quite have that final game in him. But, yeah, hell of an effort from the first round of the playoff bracket as well. He came through 3 opponents to make it to this 4th match, and he went the distance here too. Yeah, fantastic stuff. As a couple of Archons get knocked down, Maru is going to take Game 5. Maru is going to advance into the grand finals. Maru will battle Hero to become the Korean Royale champion in a best of 7.